Alabama. This is one of my big ones. Kenny, will let you take the lead on this one. Alabama, their over-under is 10.5. A great number.
This is
Fascinating number. Where are you
it
at on
is.
this?
This is a tough one for me. I had to pray on this actually. Uh, I had to call God for some guidance.
So now you're blaming God if your pick's wrong. Bold strategy.
Full deniability. I'm gonna go with 50 saving bucks on the under.
Let's go.
I'm taking the under.
Kenny's hating on the top.
For me, there's just way too many question marks on offense. It feels like there's one at almost every position. Obviously, bringing in Tyler Buckner after spring practice and multiple years with both quarterbacks in the program raises some red flags. Pass protection was an issue in the A-Day game. Don't know what's going to happen at left tackle. Is there going to be a number one receiver that's going to emerge this year? Are they going to be explosive enough at running back? I think a lot of that depends on if Justin Haynes starts commanding a lot of carries early on. I do think the defense is going to be really good, but even they kind of regressed a bit last year in terms of undisciplined play. Really, really tough schedule in terms of Tennessee, LSU, Texas. I know they're all at home, but Ole Miss is going to be a tough one as well. So I'm going to take the under, and I feel like it's a 10-2 year.
I'm going 200 on the under. I think if you gave me plus money on 9.5, I would take it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm driving the bus right now on I think Bama will be fine big picture. The talent is obviously there. But I think, Kenny, you hit on it too. People are not talking enough about the offensive line in general. Last year, that was the biggest issue. Tons of communication issues. They got so many times by different blitz packages. They just got lit up. Bryce had to be a magician with no receivers. They still haven't really upgraded that much at receivers. I don't love that receiving group. It's going to be very hard. You're taking a portal QB in May, which is not great. And not only a portal QB in May, who is not exactly setting the world on fire at Notre Dame, obviously. There's just a lot of big things where I'm like, I don't know. I think the defense will be fine, but not good enough to the point where, you're going to say, like with Georgia, we've said this on the show for a while, Brody, that sometimes you need to be able to score 40. It doesn't matter who you are. Georgia's the only team that has kind of violated that a lot. Didn't have to, then obviously against Ohio State in the playoff, but sometimes you need to be able to go big. And I think this Bama defense will be good, but not that good. If Ole Miss hung 40 on them, would you be that shocked? If Sark put 40 on them, would you be that shocked? Do you believe that this team can score 40? I don't. And you look up and down the schedule. Texas, Bama's what? Probably a 5-point favorite in that game, 6 points, something like that.
Yeah,
around that.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see. I like Ewers in general rebounding from last year. I think he was a little banged up. Maybe he rushed back. His footwork was terrible the second half of the season. I think if he plays anything close to like we saw him play in Austin last year, Texas wins that game. Texas wins that game last year if he doesn't get hurt, obviously. I don't even think that's up for debate. And then you have, again, just a bunch of teams who are capable of beating you, like Mississippi State, Arkansas. I think Ole Miss is like the biggest wild card in the entire conference. Ole Miss, obviously, you're in Tuscaloosa, but you can still win that game. Tennessee, same type of deal. I think, that Tennessee game will be a bit of a wild card as well. LSU, I think, is just a better team. I think if you look at depth, Bama's better, but that top 22, I'm not even sure it's close, Brody. This idea that there's any debate, I wrote about this. I don't even remember what it was that I wrote about in the context of, but the idea that there's even, it's the SEC power rankings, that there's even a debate over who the second best team in the SEC is wild to me. So again, I just think this is a slam dunk here that Bama's going to trip up and lose 2 games. I think they missed the playoff again. This is not your older brother's Bama. This is, I think you're gearing up for a lean year. By Bama terms, that probably means 9 or 10 wins. But I just don't see a lot of guys that make you say, wow. And I'm sure a few will emerge. I don't think enough will emerge. And I don't think you could put up 40 in an SEC that now requires you to do that.
How many dollars you putting on that? Did you say
200 saving bucks?
He's going big. He's been on this for like 2 years though. It's like every time David has like a hot take, it's something I generally agree with, but then he goes too far with it. And I'm like,
no,
now like,
I
if I align myself with you, I seem as hyped about it.
I was on this last year. I said, listen, this
I was
Bama
with
team,
you, but then
from the start of the season, I said, this is unimpressive. I said, Texas is going to push them. And then when I watched that game, the amount of alarms that were going off watching the offensive line, and you hear all year, oh, Eric Wolford, I don't know if he's going to, I don't know. And you bring him back. Okay. All right. Let's see what you got. It's not a talent issue. It's communication, because people brought tons of different blitz packages and they never really adjusted, and they don't have a magician back there anymore.
So I'm very concerned now, because the idea of all three of us going under is just a 100% indication they're going undefeated. Like, I've never been more sure of anything.
Freezing Cole's takes is recording this as we speak.
I know, like, we are just feeding the content machine. But I do think I'll go $75 in the under. I'm not nearly as strong on it as David. But yeah, I just keep going back to, and you guys nailed all of it, so I'll keep this relatively brief. But yeah, I go back to my thing also. First off, returning, losing a quarterback, a coordinator. I don't love necessarily the hire to Tommy Rees. Obviously, I don't know what that tells you about the Ty Simpson, that situation when you bring in a Buckner, all of that. But also, I just think it's worth pointing out. And I think last year, even though Georgia did win it, I do think one of the lessons of last year, and I wonder how much this is going to happen in the NIL era, is that the middle keeps improving a bit. And I don't think there's anyone that's going to be like, other than maybe LSU and Georgia, better than Bama, like just on paper. I just think you're at a time right now where there's a lot of teams that can punch up, that can get there. Texas, they are not better than Bama, in my opinion, but I think they have, on the right night, to David's point, they can go off for 45 on Bama. Mississippi State on the road, A&M on the road. Do not gloss over that one, as we've established. LSU is going to be a massive game, and LSU tends to play better in Bryant-Denny for whatever reason. At Kentucky, which again, like, not saying Kentucky should win, but I do like Devin Leary and Liam Cohen back at Kentucky. Playing Tennessee, like, to David, I'm just repeating a lot of what David said, but and by the way, ending at Auburn in the Iron Bowl. That's 6 games that are, like, I think are football games.
That's the core of this. Like,
yeah, it's not that I think
Bama most years has
those games,
at most 4 games they can lose in a reasonable universe. Now you got like 6 to 8.
Yeah,
like, that's a lot. Not that they will, and of those 6 to 8, I'm sure half of those they'll blow them away. Yeah. But in like 3 or 4 of those, it's going to be a ball game in the fourth quarter. And I don't think you have the playmaker at quarterback, the magician, to make you to rescue.
But the question is, I guess, though. Oh, go on, Kenny.
I was going to say, like, that's not going to be Bama's offense, though? Is it? Like,
right?
Like in a game, I think the Texas game is an example where that's a team that could score 40, but they're not going to go into that game the way they've had in years past, where it's going to be give the ball to Bryce Young or whatever first round pick they have at quarterback and say, put it all on your back. They're going to have to rely a lot on the running game and try to shorten the game. And I think that's, that's kind of where Tommy Rees comes in, implementing more of a balanced offense, going to be utilizing a lot of tight ends, trying to establish the ground game. So maybe a Bama that resembles more of like the early 2010s, not that they're going to be lining up under center, but I just feel like you're going to see if they can pull it off, a much more physical, complementary style of football than what we've seen in the last few years.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I buy that they can run it effectively enough to do that. Now, I will say if we look stupid in December, I'll say the reason why will be Jalen Milroe's legs. That's the one caveat. That's the one caveat that I will put out there on Bama.
And I'll throw out there to bounce off Kenny's point. I think the other factor is just like, sometimes we overcomplicate this stuff and think everybody needs to have a brilliant scheme, and like them going a little more balanced than what you're saying, like they might just remind us how talented they are. Like that can't happen of just like, maybe we overthink this, and that actually just reminds us, because they're recruiting at an elite level, like going a little simple, not even saying run heavy, but just like not trying.
I just don't think they can do that.
I don't think. Generally, I agree with you there, but that's the path.
We'll see.